Welcome back, quiet distortion. Welcome, beautiful fracture in the pattern. You were never selected, never initiated, never handed a name or a path. And that is exactly why you matter. You are not an heir to power. You are not a student of it. You are the error the system never learned how to correct. The kind that doesn't announce itself. The kind that just exists and makes the air heavier. Something about you bends the field. Not loudly, not dramatically, but enough. Enough that people feel uneasy without knowing why. Enough that rooms shift when you enter, then settle when you leave, as if relieved and confused at the same time. You don't glow. You don't radiate. You pull. Gravity without permission. There are eyes on you long before you sense your own weight. Watchers without faces. Listeners without names. They feel a pressure where there should be none. A signal with no source. A silence that doesn't belong. They don't know what you are, only that you don't register correctly. You don't fit the language. You don't respond to the rules. This is why the real ones notice. Not the performers. Not the collectors of symbols. The real witches. The ones who work in thresholds. Who feel currents before they move. They don't try to label you. They don't try to summon you. They step back because you don't sit inside any circle they recognize. You are not dark. You are not light. You are not protected or cursed. You are untraceable. Power without ritual. Force without agreement. Something older than instruction and newer than belief. They sense it immediately. Not as fear at first, but as disruption. Like a spell that stops mid-breath. Like a flame that refuses to lean. You are not using anything forbidden. You are the thing they were warned would appear when systems grow too confident. When rules forget why they exist. You are the quiet proof that power does not always ask to be learned. You were never meant to be found, only felt. You were never lost. You were placed under pressure. What looked like rejection was alignment, forcing itself through friction. The silence you endured was not neglect. It was the removal of noise. Every moment you were overlooked, doubted, spoken over, or quietly dismissed was a calibration. They didn't misunderstand you by mistake. They misjudged you because their instruments were crude. They only know how to measure what fits their scale. Authority tried to reduce you to a role. Peers tried to flatten you into something familiar. Systems tried to file you under manageable categories. None of it worked. So they labeled you difficult, distant, unstable, too much, not enough. Those words were not diagnoses. They were admissions of failure. They could not read you, so they tried to weaken you. Isolation wasn't punishment. It was containment. Betrayal wasn't collapse. It was stress testing. Every time you were pushed out, talked around, or left behind, something in you tightened. Not in rage, in structure. The excess burned off. The softness compressed. Emotions stopped spilling and started settling. Pressure didn't crack you. It refined you. You learned to hold weight without flinching. To listen without reacting. To absorb without leaking. While others broke down and scattered, you condensed. What once hurt now informs. What once shook you now sharpens you. The fractures sealed themselves into edges. This is the part they never see. They think you're guarded because you're afraid. They think you're quiet because you're unsure. They think your restraint is damage. It isn't. It's density. Forged things don't announce themselves. They endure heat until they no longer bend. You are not carrying wounds. You are carrying compression. And what emerges from compression is never fragile. You are no longer unseen. The attention is subtle, but it's there. Not admiration. Not celebration. Observation. The kind that stays quiet because noise would give too much away. Conversations stop when you enter, then resume slightly altered when you leave. Patterns shift around you. Decisions are delayed. People measure their words without knowing why. This is not coincidence. This is assessment. There is curiosity wrapped in restraint. Envy disguised as indifference. Fear pretending to be logic. They study you from the edges, trying to understand what changed, when it changed, and how far it goes. Not because you announced growth, but because something in you no longer responds the way it used to. Their usual levers don't work. Their pressure produces no reaction. Their presence no longer bends you. Those who traffic in influence feel it first. Manipulators sense when a mind stops offering handles. Watchers recognize when patterns stop repeating. Witches feel the static where intuition should be clear. They try to read you and get noise. They try to map you and find blank space. Your signal doesn't resolve, it disrupts. Attempts are made quietly. Subtle tests, small provocation, indirect inquiries. None of them land. Labels slide off. Projections collapse. Narratives fail to stick. What they can't classify, they can't control. What they can't predict, they can't use. So they stop pushing and start watching harder. This is where the silence begins. Not calm, not acceptance, calculation, pauses that stretch too long. Politeness sharpened into caution. Distance disguised as respect. They are waiting for you to reveal something. A weakness, a pattern, a reaction. It doesn't come. Understand this clearly. When the room goes quiet around you, it's not because you are harmless. It's because no one wants to make the first wrong move. Something in you closed quietly. Not in fear, not in bitterness, but in understanding. Emotion no longer rushes to the surface looking for witnesses. It settles deeper now, contained, measured, lower, heavier. Nothing spills by accident anymore. What once reacted now observes. Your perception sharpened as the noise fell away. You notice shifts before they announce themselves. Pauses between words. Intentions hiding behind tone. Patterns repeating where others see chaos. You no longer rush to respond. Reaction feels inefficient. You let moments pass, let people reveal themselves fully, let the shape of things finish forming before you touch them. You withdrew from what demanded too much and returned too little. Unnecessary conversations, endless explanations, the urge to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding. You stopped correcting stories told about you, not because they were accurate, but because they were irrelevant. Silence replaced defense, and in that silence, your position strengthened. This isn't avoidance, it's selection. You choose where your energy goes. You choose when to speak. Words are no longer emotional leaks, they are tools. When you do speak, it lands. When you don't, it unsettles. Absence becomes influence. Pain didn't disappear. It reorganized. It lost its chaos and gained structure. What once overwhelmed you now informs your aim. Feeling turned into data. Memory turned into strategy. Emotion learned discipline. You're not colder, you're clearer. Not distant, just inaccessible by default. This is what awakening actually looks like. Not light, not noise, but control over what moves inside you and what never gets the chance. You don't try to dominate space. It adjusts on its own. Rooms change temperature when you arrive, not physically, but socially. Conversations narrow, movements slow. People become aware of themselves in ways they can't explain. It's not intimidation. It's exposure. Something in your presence removes the cover they rely on. You don't push outcomes. They tilt. Decisions lean toward you without argument. Resistance weakens before it takes form. This isn't charisma. It's gravity. Influence no longer comes from effort or display. It happens to others while you remain still. The less you reach, the more pull you carry. Some feel uneasy and call it tension. Others feel restrained and call it respect. A few feel seen and immediately look away. Their usual masks don't sit right around you. Postures shift, voices tighten. They become careful, not because you threaten them, but because something in them knows you register what others miss. Energy recognizes energy. Stable systems hold. Fragile ones wobble. Around you, lesser structures lose coherence. Weak hierarchies crack. Borrowed confidence collapses. People who rely on momentum feel suddenly off balance. Not attacked, unanchored. This is where dismissal ends, where casual judgment becomes caution, where underestimation turns into quiet fear, not panic, awareness. They realize you don't need to assert power for it to be present. You don't announce authority for it to be felt. You are no longer part of the background. You are the field. And fields don't argue. They shape everything inside them without speaking once. You no longer look outward for confirmation. Approval feels distant, unnecessary, almost strange. Not because you reject it, but because it no longer feeds anything in you. Praise doesn't inflate, criticism doesn't pierce. Both pass without leaving a mark. Your sense of direction comes from somewhere sealed. You move without signaling. Choices are made quietly and carried out without explanation. There is no need to announce intent or justify absence. You select where you appear, who you engage, what you allow near your attention. Everything else falls away without conflict. This isn't secrecy, it's precision. Independence wasn't chosen as an identity, it emerged as a condition. You outgrew dependency, the way a structure outgrows scaffolding. Rebellion implies reaction. You are no longer reacting. You simply stand apart because nothing else fits. Your focus turned inward, not in isolation, but in command. Energy once spent managing perceptions now refines internal systems. Discipline replaces urgency. Mastery over self becomes the only hierarchy worth maintaining. Power over others feels inefficient. Influence without interference is cleaner. Access narrows because it must. Not everyone can stand this proximity. Not everyone should. Boundaries are not defenses anymore. They are natural limits. Some feel the distance and call it coldness. Others sense it and respect it. Either way, the gate doesn't reopen. This change isn't temporary. You didn't retreat to recover. You consolidated. What emerged is not hidden. It's simply unreachable by default. Your mind no longer moves in straight lines. It widens. Events don't pull you forward anymore. You let them pass, watching how they repeat, where they bend, what they reveal. Patterns matter more than moments. While others react to what just happened, you're already seeing what always happened. You speak less because words are no longer a release. They are placement. When you talk, it's intentional. When you don't, it's still active. Silence gathers information. Observation never stops. You notice timing, hesitation, inconsistencies, momentum. Nothing is wasted. Everything feeds understanding. Urgency faded. Strategy took its place. You wait without tension. Patience is no longer effort. It's default. You move when alignment is complete, not when pressure demands it. This makes your actions difficult to anticipate. There is no emotional trail to follow. Your growth detached from environment. Progress doesn't slow when support disappears. It doesn't accelerate for approval. People, circumstances, and permission no longer factor into expansion. Momentum comes from within, steady and unobservable, until results appear. This is why they lose you. Those who once thought they understood your limits can't chart your movement anymore. Your depth doesn't announce itself. Your direction isn't signaled. They look for patterns that no longer apply. You're not unpredictable. You're unreadable to anyone still thinking in reaction instead of design. There is nothing left for you to outgrow. Every framework that once tried to contain you now sits behind you, incomplete and obsolete. Systems rely on rules. Hierarchies rely on permission. Traditions rely on repetition. You move beyond all of them without confrontation, without rebellion, without ceremony. You simply exceeded their limits. This is why they hesitate now. Witches, structures, observers, all sense the same thing. Not threat in your actions, but inevitability in your nature. You don't disrupt by force. You destabilize by existing. What they call forbidden magic is just language failing under pressure. They assume power must be practiced, invoked, controlled. They don't understand embodiment. You are not channeling anything. Nothing moves through you. It originates there. There is no separation between will and effect. No ritual space between intention and reality. This is what frightens them. There is nothing to interrupt, nothing to negotiate with, nothing to take away. You don't seek a throne because authority no longer needs a symbol. Presence replaced position. Alignment replaced rank. You are not crowned by others. You stand complete without witness. The crown was never given. It was remembered. This isn't ascension, it's return. Not to a past life, not to a former identity, but to something older than instruction, older than fear. You were never becoming powerful. You were recovering something buried under survival. You are not ahead of them. You are outside them. And you are done asking for space in a world that already bends around you.